Hello and welcome to my channel. I'm Jason White and this is Jason's Weird Reads, and today I am going to do From the Hip number 10. And if you don't know what From the Hip is and you stumbled here and like, what's this crap? This is basically where I just like to shoot the shit from the hip. Blah. Yes, that never gets old. I just want to mention again, I think it's like From the Hip 1. I mentioned this, that I got the name for From the Hip from a podcast. It was like very important, and it was very important to me in my early podcast listening. It was called Horror, Etc. And I want to mention this because I did take From the Hip from them. I've never really heard a loose conversational style show referring to itself as From the Hip, except from by them. And they teased on the weekend. They teased that that they might be coming back. And that would be awesome. Of course, I'm a different person. It's been like, their last episode was in 2017, but they're only releasing like maybe one episode a year at that time. Their last full-length show, when they were doing one a week, that was one episode a week. That was like from 2013, I think, was their last, when they stopped being regular like that. So I'm a different person. They're different people, so I might not like it as much as I used to, but I am more than willing to give it a go. I remember listening to that podcast and feeling like I had made some friends. At the time, I needed that. Alright, as you know, I always need that. I like having friends, people who are at least friendly with me. Alright, so this From the Hip number 10, and I basically just do some channel cleanup here, tell you what I'm doing, what's going on in my personal life, and I like to do some shoutouts. So first up is Steve Talks About Books and Stuff. I've been watching him for, I would say, the majority of his time here on YouTube. He does talk about horror, and that's a good thing. So if you want a person who talks about horror books, he's a good one to go to, but he primarily talks about fantasy books. But he is a fantastic person. He does a lot of, he does more of what I like to do, and that is talk to people on live streams. He'll talk to people, other booktubers, for like 2 hours on his Friday conversations, and but he also does like a lot of top 10 lists. He's really into indie writers, which is really cool. He reads a lot of indie fantasy writers and of course indie horror writers. He came out recently with a top 10 list of horror books he's read this year. And there was a couple that we both read at the same time, but the majority of the list was completely different than what mine would be. And I found that to be awesome, honestly. Another thing I really like about Steve Talks About Books and Stuff is that he reads a lot of short fiction. I love short fiction. For a while there, I wasn't really reading too much short fiction. But this year I've seriously gotten back into it, and it's really refreshing seeing somebody else talk about short fiction like Steve does. And he actually devoted the entire month of September to one short story a day, where he would make a video and talk about it. I'm sure that took a lot of preparation and a lot of pre-shooting. But I didn't always, I think I commented on 2 or 3 of those videos, but I did watch the majority of them. I don't always comment these days. So Steve, if you're watching, I'm usually watching your stuff. I just can't always comment when I'm watching, because real life always, it gets in the way. And the next, I wanted to bring this guy up earlier, but there's a certain reason why I didn't. There was some booktube drama, and it felt like maybe I would be feeding that drama a little bit if I mentioned this booktuber, but I wanted to. I had him in my notes. I was like, this guy, I need to bring this guy up, and then that booktube drama stuff happened, and I was like, maybe I'll wait, and so I waited. And Steve Talks About Books and Things. Steve, he's talked with this guy a few times on his channel, and probably Juan's channel as well. So of course I'm talking about Juan from Plagued by Visions. Juan has been here for only like I think 6 months or so, and he's already getting close to 3,000, or maybe he's midway through 3,000. I forget, but he's climbing fast, so he doesn't really need my shout out. But he's climbing for a reason. He does really really good content. He's very entertaining. It's fun watching Juan's videos. He does a lot of like skit almost like things that are just fun to watch. His imagination is incredible, and he's also incredibly intelligent. And his take on books is he usually digs pretty deep into books that he's reviewing, and I absolutely appreciate that. And he is a very welcome member of our community, and he's going to be huge. I can tell you right now, if he keeps going, he's going to be huge. And Steve, he should be, I think, honestly, at the same level as Juan, because they both create really awesome content. I wanted to go into an additional book haul because I did a video recently, and I've gotten a couple of books since then, of course, right? But there was one I forgot to mention. But before I get into that one, like, an author sent me a book, and I completely gapped it. It was sitting on my nightstand beside my bed, and I absolutely gapped grabbing it before doing that video. But if I can for a minute, I don't know if I didn't save the page, so I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. But I bought this book used. It's The October Country by Ray Bradbury. And I was reading it for obvious reasons. It's October as I'm filming this. And I came across something that we only joke at when we're talking about used books. But I came across it. And of course I'm talking about a booger. I found a booger in my used book, and I kind of stopped reading it after that. I probably should have just went and got the ebook, or maybe bought another physical book. But I have so many things that I have to read in October that I just kind of put it down. I can't find it, of course. I wanted to show all y'all, because not every day you see a booger in a book. You know, I see oh, I touched it and it fell. That is repulsive. I don't know if you can see it. I did take a picture of it, so maybe I'll just add that. But it's in there. It fell into the crease. I should probably go wash my hands, because I touched it, and I'm not seeing it picking up. But it's in there. You can trust me. Maybe it fell out. If it did fall out, it's on me now. Alright. For my understanding, it was stuck in the book last time I saw it. Now I'm properly grossed out. This is Sammy. I think I introduced you guys to him. He is a little hellion, let me tell you. When he's awake, he causes much shit, but he's a very lovable thing. And if you hear any snorting and kind of sounds, that's just him playing. He's playing on the floor. All right, so the additional things that I picked up in additional books, the additional book haul. Now this is the one I was talking about. It's Refraction by Wick Welker. Wick contacted me. I think it was because Rachel from Shades of Orange did a review of this book, and in the comments I said that this book sounds awesome, and I think he and Rachel talked about me and my channel, and she gave him my email address, I believe. I'm pretty sure in the email he said that he was referred to me by Rachel. So I was like, yeah, absolutely, send me this book. Sitting on my nightstand because I want to read it as soon as possible, but I have like a bunch of other books I got to get through first. But I put it on my nightstand so that I don't forget. And he was nice enough to sign the copy for me. and I can't wait to get into this. Science fiction. I'm not going to bother reading the synopsis because this video is probably going to be pretty long. And for, obviously, the people who are listening to the podcast version of this, they're not going to be able to see the cover or anything like that. So, my apologies for that. And I also got another Goosebumps book here. It's this for Christmas. I'm going to read it maybe with my son. I don't know. But it's The 12 Screams of Christmas. And it's a Most Wanted. Goosebumps is a series, Most Wanted. I'm not too sure how those series works yet because there's also the Horrorland books, and I've read a couple of those. I think I've read a couple of these Most Wanted books as well. But I bought this solely for the Christmas aspect. I think it would make a really fun Christmassy horror read. I've been into a lot of middle grade lately. I just find them a lot of fun to read. So, yeah, Goosebumps, R.L. Stine. And because I have always been a little bit into Buddhism and existentialism, I watched a video by Mark Manson who pretty much summarized this book, and it sounded like it was something right up my alley. And of course, that is Everything is Fucked by Mark Manson. And it's funny, and it's interesting buying a book like this when people probably don't know exactly what this book is. And like I said, there's a lot of philosophy in here. Mark Manson derives most of his information from, as I said, Buddhism and existentialism. And he comes up with a lot of interesting things, insights into how to live your life, and how to deal with your emotions, basically. And so, but the title, Everything is Fucked. When I bought this book, the cashier is kind of giving me a look, like, are you okay, man? Are you okay? So, Everything is Fucked, a book about hope by Mark Manson. And if I remember, I'll link that video that I watched where Mark Manson, he has his own YouTube channel. He summarizes this book. It's like 50 minutes long. Not 15, 50. It's a very long video. But everything he touched upon in his summary of the book, I was like, oh, I need more of this. I need more of this. And I'm familiar with his first book, which is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And I believe Mark Manson is responsible for putting swear words in self-help book titles. I don't really think of, even though this is technically self-help, I don't really think of these books as self-help, although they are. It's using like philosophy, basically, to understand your existence, and and yourself and the world around you, your environment. That's stuff I've always been fascinated by, and Mark Manson is definitely a favorite. Moving on, the polls. Now you may have noticed that I've settled down on the polls again. That's because I haven't been putting these videos out, these From the Hips videos out very much, and there's reasons for that. Of course, there's always reasons. But I didn't want to get too far ahead of myself, so you'll see the polls coming back again. People seem to enjoy doing them. I usually get a good 130 to 160 votes on each one, and that makes it fun for me. So the first one I posted since the last is a friend spoiling the end of your current read forgivable? The answers I had were no, they shall be executed at dawn. Yes, I'd forgive them, or depends on the book and how much I'm enjoying it. And okay, let's get into the percentages here. I wasn't surprised by the answers here, because 30% said that it depends on the book and how much they're enjoying it. 23% said yes, they would forgive them. But 47%, that's nearly half, said no, they shall be executed at dawn. If I were to vote, I would put no, let's execute them at dawn. Because I had this happen to me with an Agatha Christie book in high school. And the person who did it was very malicious in doing so. I think I told this story. We were sitting in art class, and we were talking about the book that we were reading. And they were like, the ending was blah blah blah, and I was like, I haven't read the ending yet, so please don't spoil it. And the one person looked straight at me, and they were like, and then they told the ending, and they were like very malicious about it, and that has not sat well with me. In decades, let's face it, it's been decades, and I still don't forgive this person for that. But it was funny because I had a comment on this poll where somebody was like, what are we supposed to do? Execute them? Or it was some weird, rude, somebody who obviously doesn't get the tone of these polls. Obviously, I'm not going to go and execute anyone for spoiling a book for me, and nobody else is going to either. These polls are for fun. I mean, come on, man. You know what? You get to live a little vicariously with these types of polls. You just get to, lose yourself a little bit, have a little bit of fun, and you know what? I put the rational answers in there as well. So there you go. Because in reality, yes, I sort of forgave them, sort of. All right, next poll. Has a book ever made you cry in public? The answers I have here that you could have chose from, you can still go vote, by the way, they're all still there in my community tab on my profile page, is yes, I've ugly cried, I've gotten misty-eyed, dude, no, or I have no soul and never cry. my own answer, I'm going to put my own answer here first, is that it's honestly a cross between yes, I've ugly cried and I've gotten misty-eyed, because there was a book I was reading in public, and it hit me in the feels, and I could have ugly cried, but I didn't. I fought it, so it was like sort of like a misty ugly cried, because my face was twitching. I was doing all these weird twitching things, and it looked like perhaps there was something completely different wrong with me, like maybe something physical, a medical issue. But yeah, so there's that. Okay, the answers. 26% claim that they have ugly cried in public from a book. 39% is the most here, and that is that they've got misty-eyed. 18% is dude, no, which is higher than I have no soul and never cry. So it's a good thing that only 17% of the 132 people feel that they have no soul and never cry. Which, that is a good thing. If it was 100% who answered that, then we might have a problem. All right, next one. There's two more. You lend a book in perfect shape to a friend, and it comes back with coffee stains and a broken spine. They don't apologize or give any explanation. You, A, plot ways to hide the body. B, forgive this person. They are human and therefore flawed. C, confront them and demand a new copy. And D, get drunk, eat too much ice cream, and angry cry into the night. Now, I had this happen to me, and fairly recently, I lent a book to my wife, who in turn lent it to one of her family members, and they spilt coffee all over it, and they wrecked the spine, and the book was just in no decent shape when it came back. And I was fuming. There's nothing I could really do because it's family, I guess. But I'm telling you right now, if it was up to me, I might have demanded a new copy. But, and there's a big but here. There's always that thought that you're plotting to hide the body. So, how many people plotted to hide the body? 21%. I thought that would be a little bit higher, especially given the other poll. 29%, which is the highest, said, forgive this person. They are human and therefore flawed. Okay, I guess forgiveness is a good thing. It's good for you. So yeah, sure, forgive them. But seriously, people who borrow your stuff and damage it and not give a shit, there's some issues in that, okay? The next one at 27%, and that was the puppy here who knocked the stand. Confront them and demand a new copy. And 23% is get drunk, eat too much ice cream, and angry cry into the night, which is what I think I ended up doing because I didn't want to cause a rift with my family. He's disrupting the show. There you go. All right, final poll. Have you ever borrowed a book and not returned it? I'm pretty sure I've done this, but I have stories of people who've done it to me. I have stories. But, you know, this video, it's going to, and podcast episode, it's going to be too long. So, I have yes, no, and look, pal, mind your own business. So, 42% says that they've lent a book and they did not return it, which is cool. You know, it happens. 48% said that they've never done that. No. That's good. You know, I say that I probably have. I just don't, honestly, I don't remember having done it, so it's possibly I haven't. There was a movie, though. I was at a job, and it was right at the end of the job, and I didn't know I was at the end of the job yet. But right before I quit, somebody lent me a movie, and I kept meaning to return it, but I just never got around to it, so I still have that movie. And 10% said, look, pal, mind your own business. Okay, fair enough. That's fair. Alright, those were a lot of fun. And thanks to everyone who participates. As I said, hopefully you'll see some more in the future. It all depends on my memory and my energy and my imagination, because finding questions is sometimes not so easy. Alright, so personal stuff. Yeah, so personal stuff. As I said earlier, be prepared for puppy blasts, as I like to call it, in future videos, because this little guy is one little furry ball of energy. And it's funny, I started setting up for this video here, and he was sleeping. And I was like, this is a perfect time. And he got up, of course. And he was kind of doing this little dance like he had to pee, maybe. And so I took him outside, and sure enough, he peed. And then I brought him in, and of course he woke up, and now he's like, he's doing his thing. So there's that. I started recently because I'm looking at alternative ways of monetizing the channel here. If you're interested, of course, there's no obligation. Same within the future when you'll see a Patreon here, probably. I can't guarantee it, but probably. There's no obligation to send any money my way, but if you get anything out of what I'm doing and you just want to give me a tip right now, you can do so by buying me a coffee. I signed up for Buy Me a Coffee. There's links down there in the description of how you can, or it basically takes you to my Buy Me a Coffee page, and from there you can donate $1, $3, or $5. You can send that my way. I'd really appreciate it. The reason why I want to monetize my channel a little bit further is because I just want to cover the costs of not only making my channels, but you know, I do give a lot of my own money back to the community. I am a Patreon of I think 4 other booktubers, and I would just like to even it out. I don't mind giving these people the money, but I think it would be great if everything I'm doing here paid for itself at least. So if you want to send me a tip, I guess as they call it, or buy me a coffee, then there is an option now just down there in the comments, or not the comments, the video description under buy me a coffee. Just click that link and it'll take you right to me. As long as you're comfortable and you don't mind, I'd appreciate it. My weight loss journey hasn't really changed much. I'm still suffering from insomnia, and I think I've figured out the reason why. Steve Talks About Books and stuff, he said that he wasn't really familiar with keto insomnia, and it is a thing. The thing is, not too many people actually suffer from it. And of course, I would have to suffer from it because that's just my luck. But there's a couple other factors. I don't think it's the keto diet itself that's causing the insomnia. I think it's just contributing to it. My job, I work 12-hour shifts, and I alternate between days and nights every 2 weeks. So I switch back and forth between days and nights. And my insomnia hits the worst when I'm transitioning between those two. So my circadian rhythm is completely shot. It just as it gets set to a new rhythm, I have to change again. This is getting really, really hard for me to do. I feel like I'm going insane, honestly, sometimes. I feel better overall than I used to. I have a lot more energy. I'm more creative. And sometimes my thoughts feel like they're very clear and focused. But when I'm going through these periods of terrible insomnia, it is hell. I am in a terrible place when that happens. And it's not just my job. I also quit my antidepressants. And I think I quit those too early, honestly. Although there has been positive benefits from doing so. The insomnia started after I stopped taking my meds. And of course I did it the right way. I went to my doctor and he tapered me off. But ever since I've been off completely, I've had some issues. Thankfully, a lot of those issues have gone. But the insomnia is really bad. I mean, really bad. I try melatonin, and that it's iffy if that's going to work or not. Sometimes it works, other times it doesn't. I've tried chamomile tea, and while that will relax me, I'll still wake up at like 2 o'clock. Tried exercise. Tiring out my body seems to be the only thing that really works, but getting the motivation to do that is not always easy. So I have all these other things I want to do, right? Although there's this little guy who will start crying at 2 o'clock in the morning because he has to go pee-pee. Yeah. He's good at waking you up, that's for sure. But, yeah. So, I don't know. I'm kind of at my wit's end on the insomnia. I'm just hoping it goes away at some point because when it hits hard, and without sleep, bad things happen to me mentally, and I don't want to go through that anymore. It's the reason why I'm doing the diet, and it's the reason why I went off my meds, So, if anyone has any advice, feel free to put them deep down there in the darkness. One interesting thing about it's official, I'm at 50 pounds now, lost. I've kind of plateaued again, but I don't mind. I don't really want to lose weight too fast because I think that can be just as unhealthy as gaining a lot of weight. So I'm still losing weight, it's just very slow. But I'm finding that I'm able to move in ways I haven't been able to move in over 10 years. which is funny. Like, for example, the other night, Keenan, my son, he crawled into bed with us in the middle of the night, which woke me up, and I couldn't get back to sleep for a long time. But I did get back to sleep. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. When I woke up to go to work, whenever he did that, I would always give him a hug and a kiss on the cheek before leaving, and I'd do that while I was still in bed. Now, before, when I had that extra 50 pounds, I had to, like, sort of worm my way and maneuver across the bed to him and then grab him in a hug and kiss him on the cheek. But the other morning, from my back, I switched onto my knees, and I was on my hands and knees suddenly, and I just sort of crawled over and gave him a hug and a kiss. And I was like, well, that was weird because I couldn't do that before. All right. So lately I watched the there's no transition here. This is just clunky. But I've been watching that new Netflix show. It came out early, maybe it was in September, early October maybe. I can't remember when it came out, but I watched it and I absolutely fell in love with it. And that is Midnight Mass. I don't really have any notes for this. I wanted to do like a serial type thing on the podcast. That was me, not the dog. I wanted to do like maybe an episode by episode discussion of this on the podcast. But, again, it's time. Time is always an issue. But I fell in love with this show right away. And that's not because it's horrifying right away or anything. In fact, a lot of people are complaining about it, or were complaining about it when it was first released on Twitter and whatnot, saying, does this get good at any point? And in my opinion, it got good from the very get-go, because there's two elements at play here that really grabbed me. One, the setting. That setting is beautiful. I would watch this show. I would watch them talk about reading the phone book for days on end, so long as I got a lot of that setting. That town that they're in is absolutely beautiful. And two, the characters. The characters I fell in love with right away. They're interesting to watch. I really fell in love with the father. Not the father as in the dad, the priest. That guy has presence, man. That actor really nailed that role. And as the story progressed and you learn what's going on, I mean, there's hints all the way through what's going on. I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you probably already know anyway, because I'm sure people have spoiled it on Twitter and whatnot. But I got more and more excited, because this is what I've been after for a long time, and it really scratched that itch. So I really highly recommend reading or watch. Well, I did a lot of kind of research into Midnight Mass, and apparently it started out as a novel. That's really cool. Mike Flanagan. He apparently started this as a novel back in the aughts, and the Midnight Mass, you might have noticed, makes an appearance in Mike Flanagan's movie Hush. The main character is played by Kate Siegel. She's writing a book called Midnight Mass, and apparently, if when you talk to them about it, it's this. And I guess it was that at that time, the novel version, which is interesting. I like little Easter eggs like that. But yeah, definitely go watch this if you haven't. It is very much a slow burn, so if you're not looking for beautiful sets or interesting characters, then you might be bored. But I honestly don't know how people weren't grabbed right away by the interesting set. It's filmed on location. I believe it was filmed in New Brunswick, and also the characters. It was awesome. All right, what have I been reading, and what am I going to read? There's some interesting things here. I read The Haunted Mask, but it's by R.L. Stine. It's a Goosebumps book. And I don't want to talk about this book too much, because I just talked about it in one of my previous videos, but I really enjoyed this book. It's about a little girl who people enjoy scaring because she scares so easily, and she finds a mask that kind of becomes part of her in a way, and she uses it to very great effect to exact revenge on these people who are always tormenting her. And it's basically a book about bullying and the repercussions of bullying, but it's also about the repercussions of the person who's getting revenge on anything, really. It's like, how far do you take it? Because if you take it too far, then the whole hate that comes with it could become a part of you. So there's a point where you have to let go. And I think it's the best Goosebumps book, and it has the biggest and perhaps best morality tale in the Goosebumps books so far that I've read. I've read about, I think, 8 or 9 Goosebumps books up to this point, maybe more. And I'm looking forward to reading more, because they're just a lot of fun. I also read the first Monster Street book, The Boy Who Cried Werewolf. This was a lot of fun as well, because it kind of has a Goosebumps feel to it, but it was very much its own beast. And it's about a boy who's left at his grandparents' house for a couple of days, and he doesn't want to be there because he's never even really met them, and he's totally out of his comfort zone. But while there, he gets to learn about his family history, basically, and what happened to his dad, and who he is as a human, as an individual. Because learning about where you come from is strong about learning about who you are. And I really enjoyed that book. I just started reading Dracula's, and this is for Rachel from the Shades of Orange. And this isn't Dracula, the Bram Stoker book. This is Dracula's, as in more than one. And this is a book written by 4 authors. It's written by Blake Crouch, Jack Kilborn, Jeff Strand, and F. Paul Wilson. Now, I hope I didn't screw up this, because the last time I said I was going to be reading a book with the Shades of Orange Patreon crew, I screwed up. I said we were reading The Halloween Tree, when in fact we were reading Something Wicked This Way Comes. So, my bad on that. But yeah, so I started reading this early because I have some plans for November. I didn't make this into a thing, like a YouTube thing, a read-along or what have you, because honestly I just didn't want to do. I'm probably doing January is Weird, a readathon in January, and I just don't want to be putting too much work on my plate, because I have writing that I want to get done too, and this YouTube thing takes up a lot of extra my free time. So my plan is November is going to be full of vampires. And that's one reason why I started Dracula's early, because I just want to get it done to get to the books I plan on reading for my vampiric November. Now, if you, I might do this again next year, because I'm probably going to make some videos, maybe even some vlogs for this. I just didn't want to organize any read-alongs or whatnot. But if you do want to, read these books with me, you're more than welcome. And you can also join my Discord down in the comments, and maybe I'll put up a Vampire Month reading thing, because I love vampires, and I haven't been reading nearly enough vampires. So, the books I'm going to be reading. The books, I'm starting with Dracula's, because it seems like a really fun buffer. And I'm going to move on to Dracul by Dacre Stoker. And then I'm going to read Dracula by Bram Stoker. And then I'm going to read The Historian by, I forget who. I'll put the historian's name down right here so you can read it. But I've read Dracula. It's the only book I've read in this entire thing. But I wanted to read these other books for too long, honestly. So we're going to do it now. Yeah, November is full of vampires. And I got this idea to read these 3 specific books by watching Crystal Visions. She did a vampire video. Her favorite vampire books or something like that. I'll put it up there and down there if I remember. It's a very good video. And in the comments, I suggested I was going to do this, and she said that might be a good idea. But I noticed somebody else said, is it good to read those 3 books in order? And she said, I have read Dracula, so I think it's a good idea. But she said that it might not be a good idea if you haven't read Dracula, because there's certain things in Dracula that are referenced in Dracul. So I don't know, but I'm reading it this way, and nobody has to join me. It's not an official read along or anything like that. So, but I'm really happy to be jumping back into the pool of vampires. So I think that's it. That's finally it. I finally reached the end of this rather rambling from the hip episode. Thank you so much for watching. My battery's about to die, so it's time for me to get out of here. Thank you for watching. And if you watched this far, leave me a little vampire emoticon down there in the darkness, and I'll leave you a vampire in return. So keep being safe, keep being creative, and I'll catch you guys in the next bookish video.